拿督马基德是在加强马中两国关系中做出重要贡献的人物。1970年，他毕业于马来亚大学经济学系。毕业后，24岁的他开始参与外使服务。1972年至1986年，他在老挝和越南开始了他的外交服务生涯。当时两国刚结束冲突。1991年，他被委任为马来西亚驻美国大使。1976年，他从河内乘火车到北京，这是他第一次访问中国。当时是中国文化大革命即将结束的时候，也恰逢河北省发生了唐山大地震。然而，他第一次正式与中国接触是在1980年至1984年期间。当时的他成为那里的大使馆顾问。马来西亚和中国政府改变政策，开始建立邦交，出使中国是他当时最重要的任务。后来，马来西亚政府在1998年至2005年委任他担任驻华大使。在他担任大使期间，是马哈迪首相和巴达威首相任职期，所以他见证了加强两国双边关系的重大事件和政策变化。除了外交活动外，拿督马基德还参加了对西亚国家的访问，以及参加伊斯兰合作组织的会议。退休后，他依旧对中马双边关系保持着浓厚的兴趣，为当前有关马中关系的问题提供了个人见解。为表彰他的贡献，中国政府在2015年授予他友谊之星。拿督马基德目前是马来西亚中国友好协会的主席，马来西亚中国商业理事会的执行委员，并担任马来西亚中国援助校友会的主席。2016年，拿督马基德被任命为马来亚大学中国研究所的客座教授。马来西亚与中国的友好关系在“一带一路”的倡议下如日方中。历史上，马中友好关系可追溯到1974年，至今，马来西亚是东南亚第一个与中国正式建交的国家。此后，两国在政治、经济、文化交流频繁，特派大使互助。在互助的使节当中，马基德大使作为马来西亚驻中国大使任期最长的一位，他见证了马中友好关系的日益变化。哟，何总，这么早就到了？好久不见，好久不见。怎么样？今天的感觉还可以吧？
先过来看看，有布置的很好，谢谢。
哎，大家好 ，How are you? How are you?
Thank you.
那就完全你好，你好，你好。
Dr. Maju, I hope that you still remember Mr. Ho.
Oh yeah, I think we met during one of the seminar.
Yeah.
非常高兴又见到你。这是呢我们中国的一套茶具啊。
This is a tea set from China.
Beautifully done, yeah.
中国呢有几千年的茶文化。
You know that this tea culture has been more than 1,000 years.
这是我们很有名的一套茶具啊，象征了友谊的长存。今天把它送给你，希望你喜欢。
Or this is a tea set presented by you, Dr. MAEX. We hope that this will is our friendship.
Thank you.
Friendship forever, Dr. Maju. Not only in between two of you, but also Malaysia and
Malaysia,
China.
especially the people to people.
Yeah. 不只是就是马交所跟马中友好协会的友情长存，也是两国之间的友情长存，更是两国人之间的友谊长存。
好的，谢谢。那么我还有点事情啊，因为这个，那你们就先忙先谈。
好的。
等一会儿有时间我再过来。
好，谢谢何总。
Okay, we'll see you later. Thank you.
Hi, Dato. How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
This is my second time to meet Dato.
Oh, yes.
Actually, I would like to know more about you. Just now that we have presented to the souvenir, I hope you like the tea set.
Oh, yes.
I like the word that you show that the friendship forever in between the Malaysians and Chinese. It represents that significance of meaning behind the gift, right? Actually, from the knowledge or from the friendship that we have together, I would like to know more about that. Though, like, since when that you have an interest with China?
Yeah. No, basically, I was, as a childhood, I was born in the state of Johor.
Which part of Johor?
In a town called Kluang. If you look at the map of Peninsular Malaysia, Johor is the southernmost part of Malaysia. Then Kluang has a population of about 300,000. it's actually quite an urban, township. But we have, so the economy, the strength is basically on plantation, rubber, palm oil, and we have some manufacturing, entities in the city. So technically, I can claim that I'm a town boy because my house is actually situated in the town itself, and then I grew up in the surrounding of diversity. I have a lot because Kluang is actually a Malaysian Chinese town, the population, So I have a temple just next door. Then there's a very famous Chinese school, Chonghua School, which is behind my house, So then, of course, I remember during the early days, a lot of the cultural element, still actually got fond in my memories. The Chinese used to have this Cantonese opera on the roadside.
During the temple festival.
Then we had temple festival. Then from time to time, we have this funeral procession. Then also in the market, this is quite interesting. You have delicacy, which the Chinese like. Once remember to see snake meat being sold. So I think I grew up in this diversity, so that most of my schoolmates are also Malaysian Chinese because I'm the science stream.
Well, I understand that upon the graduations from secondary school, you come across and study in University of Malaya and graduate from Bachelor of Economics, right? And then that put yourself into the foreign services?
Yes, actually at the university, though the faculty is Faculty of Economics, but I went into the public administration and public policy, and there is actually courses in law and courses in politics. So I think from my undergraduate days, I'm really quite interested in politics, I'm quite active.
Which year?
I was there from 1969 to 67 to 69, 3 years course. And at that time, our campus was quite active politically. The political consciousness among the students were quite strong. I think you should remember a lot of demonstration.
Before you you were posted, right? Then what kind of things that you put yourself to get learning and get used with this kind of career?
Yeah, actually my posting also because of the interest in politics and public policy. When I was recruited in the government service, actually you are recruited in what they call the administrative and diplomatic service. It's an overall, but I opted for the foreign service. And after 2 years, I was posted to a very interesting country, Laos.
Wow. Well, at the time that I remember that Laos just got independent from Thailand.
No. Actually, they were having a civil war at that time. The independence was earlier, much earlier. So it was civil war between the communists and the non-communists. So when I was posted there was actually there was a reconciliation with the two parties. So the communist faction was invited to join the government. So there was a coalition government in Vientiane at that time. And it was two brothers on each other's side, So it was quite an experience for me to see the end tail of the war. You can see the result of the war, the devastation and the suffering of the people. But at the same time, I was also lucky to see a new horizon in terms of the peaceful reconciliation.
Right, and then the second country that you visited was Vietnam?
Yeah, then I stayed in Laos for 3 years. Then I was posted to another war-torn country, it's Vietnam.
Alright. Was in just along the Mekong River.
Oh yes, it's neighboring actually. So in fact, Vietnam, I was there just at the beginning of the war. During that period, actually we don't have relations with North Vietnam, basically with South. But at the end of the war, the government decided that we should now open up, have relations with the North. I was the first team that was sent, so we set up the embassy there. There also you can see effect of war, a long war of Vietnam. It has been at war for a long time, and also efforts towards peace, towards development. So that's also a kind of another experience for me to see a country at war and also a country trying to build itself after the war. And Malaysia actually contributed. I think Malaysia, the Chinese, the Vietnamese wanted us to help on rubber, so we sent our people, specialists, how to actually look after for the farming, plantation.
But Dato, do you consider yourself, because you're putting yourself into the risk while the country is having the war?
Yeah.
I mean, how do your family feel about it when you posted to Laos and
Fortunately, at the time, I was still single,
Yeah.
so it's easier for me to manage. I think I find it very interesting because we have support from the government, and of course we, as diplomat, we do not really go to the war zone, but we do meet a lot of people outside, and I think of course there's some restriction of movement and all that. So I think we manage ourselves.
What about it? Well, during the first visits that you posted to China, what's the most remarkable experience that you'll never forget till now?
Yeah, coming from Malaysia, because we receive a lot of information about China, so you have fear because you think this is a communist country, that you will be followed and watched, so you just think how you can perform. But my experience was different. Actually, nothing of this happened. Technically, it's an open, society in the sense that foreigners, you can walk to the market, you can move around, but of course the poverty is prevalent. As everyone, during that period, still in the early 80s, there's still rationing of food. People are still, either one or two colored, others blue or black, but you still have a lot of bicycle. You can see that the effect of isolation, the underdevelopment, the poverty is very prevalent.
Do you consider language is a barrier at the time?
Of course, to know the language is important and is helpful, but the Chinese are quite prepared, even at the early stage, because they have people to service foreigners. They have tourist guide, tourist agent, that can actually pick you up in many of these points. I remember at that time, the China Travel Service will have their people waited for me in Xi'an. He's on a bicycle. He meets me at the...
So there's no problem for Dato to do biking?
That is one of the activities for diplomats, And normally we, for China, most of us we live along the Cha'an Avenue. So to the east, you have all the factories, and all the resident, and to the west, you have the factory. So in the morning, most people actually go to the east. In the evening, they go back to the west. So we also try to follow the route.
Well, I think you were selected to be Malaysian ambassador in China since 1998.
Yes.
That is the year that Malaysia held the Commonwealth Games under the leadership of Tun Mahathir, and until 2005. Well, for this particular period, what did you see the development of China during this period?
When I came back as an ambassador in 1998, China totally changed. First, my earlier assignment, the contacts with the Chinese were limited. In fact, at that time, we do not have at all people-to-people exchange. Well, we still have the issue with the Chinese on the question of the Communist Party recognition. But this was solved by 1992. So when I came out in 1998, we almost have a full-blown relationship. A lot of exchanges, tourism has opened, that Malaysian students start studying in China. And then China itself has shown sign of success of the open door. There are more expatriates, more multinational investment in China. And the Chinese people also have begun to show some prosperity. You can see China more colorful. So, I remember that, in the early days, Chinese women are very modest. They do not put up makeup and all that. But by 1998, it's very common because they say, why should the Chinese people not put up makeup, So there's no reason. So you can see the changes already taking place by the time I'm there, and of course through 2005. I think the changes both the fiscal.
They went successfully?
Oh yes, I think the change is physically, infrastructure-wise. I think there is, from what I described, from scarcity to surplus. In the earlier period, practically we have to buy imported items, basically from Hong Kong. Even I remember at that time for dry cleaning, some of us have to send to Hong Kong. But by the time in 1998, almost everything is available in China. We have the latest. And then, you know, you can see also the traffic, nature of traffic is changed. Basically from bicycle to motor cars, all types are imported. And today, from green train, they call it, into super fast train.
True.
Yeah. You know.
But Dato, just now you mentioned about because of the better understanding
Yeah.
in between the two countries, basically for in between Malaysia and China, in terms of the belief in political system.
Yeah.
Ours one in Malaysia will be democratic system,
Yeah.
and in China will be a communist
Yeah.
system. Well, as we remember from the sejarah of the history in Malaysia, we know that there is certain Malaysian Communist Party in Malaysia as well. Is it because of this form of political party, it creates the conflict in between the two countries?
And see, you have to actually distinguish the ideology itself and what we consider the intervention. The ideology in communists, we have no issue because we have relations with Russia, we have relation with East Europe, which we have relation with Cuba, which are ideologically communist. So we are neutral because that is upon the people themselves to decide which system, you know.
True.
But for China, in the early stage, there was this linkage within the Communist Party of China and also Malaysia. So that caused some difficulty. But we managed to resolve it, and that's why after this resolution, we have full-blown relations with China. And China today remains communist, but we have full relations.
True.
So the ideology is not an issue for us, you know.
So in terms of comparison among all the countries that you visited, share with us like which are the most that you can't remember, can't forget. Would it be China?
Being human, you know, for all countries there are fond memories.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know. I think for China, you know, it's a special memories for me. I think I can say 4. One, you know, 2 of my elder sons were born in Beijing.
Wow.
During my first posting in 1980.
Do they same as you have a Chinese name? You
Yes.
do have a Chinese name.
Yeah, they call. So, you know, my wife was brave enough to choose to give birth in China, in Beijing itself. We could actually come back to KL. But the rationale was that, you know, China has a huge population. So, you know, there must be
Shouldn't
very,
be a problem
shouldn't
with
be a
the
problem.
medical system, right?
Yeah. So there's this confidence, you know. Then I think later on, I never realized that my first son that was born in China decided to work in Shanghai. He's still in Shanghai. He has his family, and then my 2 grandchildren were also born in Shanghai.
Wow.
So,
do they speak good Mandarin?
oh yeah, they learn, they speak Mandarin. Yeah?
They
So
speak
yeah,
Mandarin.
they work there. So I think there is this fond memory that I started my family in China. Then it was also followed through by my son who is there. You know. Then secondly, also during my tenure as the ambassador, I think the relationship with China began to be consolidated. I think Tun Mahathir was the Prime Minister. He worked really very hard, you know. Actually, he instructed me saying that China is a very important country, that you must make friends with China. So on day 1, I make efforts to get to know Chinese officials, Chinese you know, people, and travel to see that how we can bring our countries together. And also during my time, Tun Mahathir at that time wanted to actually expand Malaysian missions abroad, and one of it was to have new chancery, new office. So actually I've supervised the construction of the Malaysian embassy in Beijing and also the new resident with that, you know. And I think it's good also to share actually in terms of development during this period, you know, Malaysia and ASEAN faces 2 challenges. One, 1998 was, you know, in the midst of the financial crisis.
Yeah.
People in Malaysia, people in ASEAN, they were panicky, not knowing what's going to happen. But I think the Chinese foreign minister, you know, they called us from the ASEAN nations and actually encouraged us and gave us confidence not to worry. He says ASEAN will recover, and then I think he assured that Chinese will not devalue the yuan. This is important, you know. So looking back, I think China actually helped a lot to stabilize the financial crisis, to give us the confidence and also to help out, not to make situation worse. Then I remember another incident that could affect also our region in China was in 2002, the SARS, the bird flu.
Yeah, the bird flu happened in Hong
that is,
Kong.
yes, I think if you remember, that was also a very frightening experience. Overnight, the Beijing hotels were actually empty. You can see all hotels were dark. I was told in some hotel, even you reduce the price to $10.
That is no tourist.
Nobody wants to come,
Yeah.
no foreigner. So it was a very frightening experience. And then for Malaysia also during that period, we overreacted. We actually banned Chinese national coming to Malaysia, which the Chinese considered a bit overdoing it and not so friendly. But luckily it was for a while. But arising from this, I remember we had a meeting in my residence. This is among the ASEAN ambassadors. So we decided that maybe we should recommend to our government to have a meeting with the Chinese side, so
To
that
clarify.
and that we should not be afraid, of this danger, because everybody is afraid that travelers will actually spread the disease. But finally there was a meeting, and then we and the Chinese side came up with a very good solution, and I think this solution stands until today. Whenever we have such an emergency like this, both ASEAN, Malaysia and Chinese officials, we are no more panicky. We look things rationally, and there are other cases after that. We do not disrupt the economic activities.
Do you think that this is one of the responsibility as an ambassador, like to clarify the issue in a foreign country?
Oh yeah, I think very important, communication. We need to explain the reason, because we are friendly countries, so I think we share a lot of information. We share also our concern while promoting our interests. That's how you can get, a better understanding.
You served 2 stints in China. What other places that you visited to other than Beijing?
Well, I was quite lucky enough, because I have as ambassador to embassy at that time, the Chinese provinces, they were competing to get foreign investment. They were competing to get information to foreigners that their cities, that their province are actually welcoming investors. They are opening up new economic development zone. So they invite us. So we have this opportunity to be invited by mayor to attend their exhibitions. So to that extent, I'm lucky that I'm invited and I went. I purposely went. So I covered all parts of China, all the 34 cities.
That is good.
Yeah. And I make sure that also I covered geographically the South China, East China, Central, Northwest. Because China, if people don't understand, it looks one from outside, but if you look internally, the diversity
It's so
is there.
diversified.
Yes, the food, even the language, the local
custom,
custom.
yeah, it's so
totally,
diversified.
it's and then every one of them, the provincial, the region is very proud of their food, of their history. Then every time you meet one mayor, the mayor say, "Oh, my town is the best, my airport is the best." Then the next door, the mayor say, "Oh, I'm better." So this competition among the local leaders, they say this explains why China developed very fast. All the leaders actually wanted to get, development, and they were actually attracting a lot of foreigners, the diplomats, the investors.
But one thing is in diplomat, and Dato, how do you bring in all the FDI to China from Malaysia? I believe that they're under all the encouragement and advice from embassy.
Okay, it's a combination. Sometimes it's work from here. The Chamber of Commerce themselves took the initiative, but normally when they're in China, they will call upon us. So we have exchange of view. And I think basically our line at that, during my time, I remember, basically, we put this proposition to that the change in China is real. Because many people at that time was not sure whether the change from the isolation to more openness, is it true or is it sustainable? We say it's sustainable. And then secondly, we say that the development in China is so backward that there are a lot of gaps that can be filled up, opportunities. So actually, Malaysians are quite visionary. Many of them seize the opportunities. And I think there are two groups of people. One is the investor themselves, that most of the early investors I think became successful later on. Then the other group of Malaysians that came in to look at the opportunity are what I call professionals. A lot of Malaysians that are working in Malaysia in multinational got offered, came to China. At that time, China were looking for foreign talent. And I think mainly Malaysian Chinese, because of the language, were invited, and most of them took the opportunity to be part of the development.
So do you see any obvious policy changes in the Malaysia-China relationship between the two periods of time that you were in China, during the time that you were in China? Do you see any obvious policy changes?
Oh, during the 80s and later?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. In the 80s, I think the basic change that China have decided to open to the world. They decided to modernize the economy, and I think
no more conservative?
yes, Mr. Deng Xiaoping, make it known. It doesn't matter whether the cat is black or white,
Yeah.
as long as it catches mice. So the Chinese are not very ideological, very practical, as long as it deliver the result.
Get things done.
Get things done. So when the Chinese develop, they got a mixture. They accept the best, and they actually ask for advice, consultation from all over the world. And I think they have done very cleverly. They want the best from all the world, so that China receives the best, So that helps a lot in Chinese, modernization.
Well, during the service of time that you worked closely with Tun Mahathir and also another leaders, our Prime Minister, that is Badawi, how do you work together with both of them, these two premierships?
Yeah. Maybe I just reply for you the changes, but when I came in the 90s, then it's totally different. Then China has become more open at that time. You can see more development, and I think the engagement with the world became closer. China became a member of the WTO in 2002.
Yeah.
That also shows Chinese confidence to compete with the world in terms of goods and services. So during these two periods, definitely one of progression for China, from close, isolated, one that's more open, and you can see evidence of prosperity, very clear. I think the standard living of the people has gone up.
Improved.
I think basically the improvement in the second part of my tour in terms of, first, I think accommodation. More and more Chinese can afford private housing. You see, my early days when I was there, 80s, it's all government housing, very basic, provided by the workplace, by the department and all that, But in the second part, later part in 90s, early, 2000, most Chinese have acquired their own apartment, very modern apartment, and also not that, the household item inside also very modern.
Wow.
They got modern furniture. Everybody has refrigerator, so it's totally changed. Then you see more Chinese travel abroad, and of course the road has totally changed. Less bicycle. You have modern cars and very fancy cars around. Yeah.
World has been changed, especially in China. They say that they have so many of advancement on this electronic vehicle, electronic gadget and all that. Do you see the difference? How do you feel all this change during this probably about 10 years only?
Yeah, I think it's a very fast change, I think the Chinese went into the consumer good electronics and white goods. I think basically this is what the Chinese people wanted. The market is big. Earlier, I remember most of the refrigerator, most of the TV are actually from the Western world. Then Japan.
Yeah.
But finally, the Chinese company make it, And it's good that the Chinese company, the brand, are not only confined to China. This also exported to the world. And we actually, from other developing countries, benefited from this. The cost is actually lower. So I think China contributed to this consumption experience. Otherwise, people in Africa has to buy from European model. Even Malaysia, I remember Philips, and it's very expensive.
True.
Then of course, the Japanese came in, also help out. But when the Chinese start exporting, then the goods are really cheap and good,
And you can enjoy the
yes,
the technology.
The technology,
and all
yeah.
Right?
So I think if you look at that, the Chinese development does not only benefit their own consumer, but also the external consumer. Because these goods also made available at a cheaper price.
Do you think that for this kind of changes, Malaysia can accept all this kind of advancement? Well, this is a rapid change. From also the change of habit of Malaysians from Western country. Well, we're so close to China technology.
No, actually, Malaysia can, but the only problem with Malaysia, our market is small. Since our market is small, there are many things that, if not produced on large scale, company cannot make profit.
True.
Yeah, so you have to have actually expanded market. And secondly, also some of us, the income is still not that high. So I think we need to actually increase the purchasing power of the people, and we need to expand the market. Then many of these goods then can come. There's a scale, then company are willing to invest. Otherwise, you can produce, but demand is less. Then the incentive is also less.
True.
This is where in China, that is the magic. China, the magic basically is a scale. The consumer market is big, and also they're able to increase the purchasing power of the people over the years. These two acted, any business can really flourish.
Yeah. But and also that we talk about, let's say talking about the quality, they will talk about the quality of the productions, like that you mentioned about the next production and all that. Well, and another words is that you pay peanuts and you will see the monkey. So in terms of quality, do you think that made by China or made in China will serve the quality purpose?
Yeah, no, I think China have various stages. I think when they started manufacturing and when they started exporting, I think most of the product are on the cheaper side. Because the Chinese have not got the technology yet. I think they just improve from whatever they inherited. But then when they decided actually to go for the real global market, then I think they start actually importing foreign design. They actually employed foreign designers, bought modern machinery. So actually there's no different from the one is made overseas, because using the same machinery and sometimes the same expertise. So over the years, for example, luxury goods, fashionable goods, all these are par, and later on electronics, because the Chinese acquired foreign technology, improved upon them. So Chinese quality started with quite low and common, now to more sophisticated. It's a question of your budget.
True, and the purchase power and how much purchasing power do you have, right?
Yes, basically it's that. The Chinese can deliver.
Well, I think in terms of GDP of China, then it developed together with all the purchase power. Nowadays, the China purchase power is so good, as amazing as the GDP within the country.
Oh yes, I think the Chinese are able to increase the income, and this purchasing power drives, the economy. Though of course, earlier it was more on the export side. I think last 4 or 5 years, the Chinese have decided to change their model, not totally to rely on export, but also on consumption. So there's a lot of incentive for people to consume. You see during the November sales, the so-called Singles Day.
Yeah. Well, throughout these recent terms with China, Dato, you witnessed a lot of changes, though you left the country. Any remarkable memory that you would like to share with us after you left China since 2005? Do you still keep in touch with them?
Yeah, I continue to follow on China. After retirement, I became the president of the Malaysia-China Friendship Association. I'm doing the same job. Before with government, it's more government to government, no more people to people. So actually, the sectors that we are involved in the association, we promote more exchanges in the cultural sector, tourism, in the sports, in the youth, So now we are working towards a more concrete youth exchange program. I think 2 days ago, the Chinese embassy, the ambassador came to our association, created a fund for 1 million renminbi, especially to start a program of youth exchange between Malaysia and China. So I think this is a good program that will continue. So I keep myself, abreast about development in China. I attended seminars, I have discussion with Chinese think tanks, academy, universities. So that keep me, it's my interest. I'm happy to do it.
Well, that is a question that how do you distinguish your NGO, that is Malaysia-China Friendship Associations, with other Chinese chamber or associations?
First, our association is national. There is not a Malaysian Chinese, but it's Malaysian. So our members comprise of many races. It is actually country to country, whereas others are basically actually very sectorial. They are chamber of commerce. Some also very limited to certain industries. Some are related culturally, clans, the Lim clans with their association, more cultural, more actually focused. But ours is more broad, and I think it's more national, and we try to embrace all the races.
How do you get all the funds, the source of funds in promoting all this friendship in between China and Malaysia?
We are very actually lucky because there are many of our members, our office bearers who support us. They are in the business, and most of them also have strong interest in China, either culturally or business-wise. Then they are also people who believe in a stronger Malaysia-China relation. So we have like-mindedness, people that contribute to our efforts.
But Dato', you mentioned about the strengthened relationship in between China and Malaysia. Wow, that is recently Malaysia just have a totally new Malaysia under the new leadership after 60 years, which is we have not been changed before. Do you think that under the premiership of Tun Mahathir will give us another new sprays or new look of this relationship in between the China and Malaysia?
At the initial stage, there was some uncertainty as to which direction Malaysia-China would take, because for the first time in our election, China became a subject. It never happened before, So when the new government came into power, I think Tun Mahathir also has spelled out some of the grievances of his administration in terms of the past relationship, particularly in terms of investment. It's not so much the overall policy towards China, because I think the policy towards China still remains friendly, because our relationship has a long history, also founded in very solid foundation in terms of our political understanding, in terms of economic ties, in terms of trade, in terms of tourism. These are very strong. I think under Mahathir, he has made known what he wants is that this relationship should be a two-way. I think he thought the past administration has been weak on getting more for Malaysian. I think he continued to welcome Chinese investment. He acknowledged it's important, but he thought that Malaysia also should gain more. So I think looking forward, there's no doubt that Malaysia will continue, Mahathir will continue on this good relationship with China. In fact, it was Dr. Mahathir that established the foundation. I remember when I was the ambassador, Dr. Mahathir worked very hard to make sure the economic exchanges between China became strong. He wants to make sure people-to-people exchanges, tourism. In fact, he put a lot of incentive. So I'm sure now during his second administration, Dr. Mahathir will continue with this, but perhaps with a different emphasis that Malaysia should also gain from this. And I think the Chinese also understand the desire of Dr. Mahathir. It's basically, we need to actually reinforce the idea of mutual benefit, win-win, which is actually a common desire of all countries.
Well, we always talk about balance of power and the level of the countries. Well, during 90s, probably in the earlier of year 2000, at the time, Malaysia is still in a developing stage, which is, let's put it into the statement, probably Malaysia is more advanced than China. But let's put ourselves into the foot today. Probably China now is flying much more advanced than Malaysia. Probably this will be the different stage different character that we are playing in helping each other. What do you think, Dato'?
Sure, because I think that's why we should take advantage of the changes in China. I think the first advantage we should take, China has become a second, biggest economy.
Other than
Which,
US.
and then secondly, compared to the early 90s, China today has resources, capital, technology, goods and services to
Purchasing
export,
power.
and also purchasing power.
Yeah.
China can create market not only in China but also overseas in terms of tourists purchasing, not only in Malaysia, throughout the world, in Europe, in Latin America. So the question for us is how to take advantage of the situation in the new China now. That is important. That's why it's important for us to have a good relation, to have a very strategic thinking that we actually, because it's not only Malaysia, the whole world is competing for
trend
China.
nowadays.
Yeah, for China, purchase, for China tourists, for China education, even for China goods, So that's why for Malaysia, we have done well. I think we saw, to be fair, our leaders saw this very early. I think, we have managed our relation with China very well. Because in the 70s, when we have this ideological issue, our second Prime Minister, Tun Razak, went, we resolved this. Then the second stage, I see it, when China opened the door in 1980s, we also saw the opportunity very early. It was Dr. Mahathir that actually went forward to say that Malaysians should go to China. I think some of us went, we became successful. Then we supported China to play a stronger role regionally, internationally. That's why our foundation with China, we brought China into ASEAN, we created the confidence, So we played our role. Now to answer your question, now we are in the third stage of development. China now has reached a very influential global player, got a lot of resources to share around, and China has created a number of platforms, including the BRI, where the Chinese are willing to share.
Yeah.
So we have taken advantage of this. So it's important, this period we managed how we can gain from this strength of China.
Do you think the One Belt One Road will help Malaysians to get together with China to walk around the whole world, play around with the world stage platform?
Yeah, that should be the aim. But I think maybe we should start bilaterally first, because I think the BRI, there are a lot of opportunities, especially economic opportunities, which the two countries can work together. I think the Chinese have actually come out to look, first at the infrastructure, and now the Chinese are looking at the new level of investment in terms of technology, in terms of digitalization, which we require, or even Dr. Mahathir mentioned about automotive.
Yeah.
These are the strength, and I think based on this strength and the success that we have in China, with China, we can then together go to a third country, to other BRI country, because we build the confidence here.
But Dato', you mentioned about actually Tun Mahathir is the first one, not to say first one, but he is passionate in welcoming the FDI from China since 90s. And you mentioned about the bilateral relationship as well. Not only we help China, but China also help Malaysia for the development and to a certain extent the corporations. Well, during the era change, from one leader to another leader, you work together with Tun and Badawi and also Najib. How do you distinguish these three leaders from Malaysia in terms of the bilateral relationship in between China and Malaysia?
I think all the three leaders have one similar goal. All of them wants to build a stronger relation with China, one after the other. So actually, when Mahathir, start building, he took over what Tun Razak. Tun Razak actually started just the policy level. There was no content. There was not much bilateral. But it was Tun Mahathir that put it into the content, in terms of the actual exchanges, in terms of the actual agreement. Execution, and very specific exchanges in education, in tourism, and trade. Then when Tun Abdul Badawi came, he also actually reinforced this. He's also, same as the president, committed to a stronger China. So there's a same line. So his emphasis was also to build upon what Tun Mahathir has done. He visited China. Then of course, even upon his retirement, that the Chinese acknowledged that he was brought in as a member of the board of the Boao Forum. He attended the Boao Forum, you know. Then when Datuk Sri Najib became the Prime Minister, he built up also the relationship of his predecessor. He put much emphasis on, you know, on the question of investment, including, you know, also on the question of Chinese new technologies, you know. Of course, you see there's some controversy and perception about the nature of the investment, you know. I think the argument is that maybe some of the investment is one way, that means, you know, Malaysia was not able to get the maximum benefit about this, you know.
For Dr. Mahathir mentioned that we not only need monetary investment, but we prefer that other than monetary investment, we need technology.
Yes, yes. So I think basically we need the, you know, the effect on the ground, employment, using local resources, you know, so that I think these have been conveyed to the Chinese side. I think the Chinese side are fully, you know, agreeable. They would like to see what actually they can really help Malaysia in terms of the investment they are putting in. And I think there will be changes that I think this idea of a win-win situation can become more evident.
What made you think that Chinese they prefer to come to Malaysia for the FDI? Is that because of the familiar of the language, or because of the friendly of Malaysians, so that they prefer as a priority for investment?
Yeah, I think, you know, you look back, actually it was not easy for us to convince the Chinese investors to come to Malaysia.
During the time.
Yeah, it took a while. But when finally the Chinese came, then to answer your question, I think first they have the confidence in Malaysia, confidence in terms of the policy, then also confidence that, you know, they are welcome, that their venture can also bring their profit. And I think thirdly, they are quite attracted because of our location, the infrastructure. So they're thinking maybe Malaysian market could be small, but then it could be a base for regional expansion. Thirdly is because our long ties with the Chinese, the friendship that we built over the years. When we look at history, our connection with China goes back, you know, 2,000 years in different format. It started during the ancient time, then during the Malay rulers, you know, the Sultan Magnate, then it was during the British time, then it was during the Kuomintang time, you know, so all these different phase. Then we have what I call the latest phase, post 1974, after diplomatic relations.
Yes.
But all this, we have gone through all the challenges, and the relationship over all this period seems to consolidate the friendship and expansion of cooperation.
This is how we get together.
How we together, yeah.
Relationship, right?
Yeah, so we've gone over the decades, you know, different period, different environment, different geopolitical factors.
But Dr. just now you also mentioned about the change of the leadership of the world, probably will be from US and EU and now China. Well, the world put an eye to China now because of the advancement of the country. Do you think that, what do you think about the bilateral relationship in between US and China? Or just now you mentioned also that in year 2002, China has entered to WTO, while recently the President Trump had just mentioned that, oh, we could just let go WTO. What do you think about this too?
If you look at, you know, US-China relationship, it's a very complex relationship. And it's also a relationship.
They hate each other, but they can't let go each other, right?
And then also it's a relationship that is important not only to the countries, but also to all of us, because whatever they do or don't do will affect us, you know. So what we've seen in recent years is the increasing strategic competition between US and China. My view is that, you know, the world today, we have so many problems, we have many challenges. We have this economic uncertainty, we have inequality between different groups, we have the climate change, then we have actually terrorism, then we have regional conflict. So I think there's a role both for America and China to actually help out on all these global issues. And I think for China now, you know, China can deliver in terms of the resources they have, in terms of the expertise, and they have made it known They wanted to play a more active role. And I think for America, America should give more space to China, or for China to contribute to all these, global issues and also a solution to it.
Do you think intellectual property will be the challenge from China?
This has always has been an issue between China and the Western world.
Yeah.
I think an issue that started even
From this
before
point
China.
of view, we definitely can't deny that China is a fast learner, right?
Yes, yeah. But I think China is also under pressure. That I think China should not also become rich through other people's effort. That's why now China have changed their policy. They want to make actually now made in China. They have emphasized on innovation, a lot of innovation and a lot of research. So the China also want to contribute, that they do not just take from others, but they also want to come up with their own intellectual property, their own intellectual strength. So we hope this could solve the issue of this intellectual property. Right,
True. Not only the innovation, but also take care of the intellectual, respect the intellectual property.
Yes, also
of
yeah.
the inventor.
So Chinese have also signed and actually made it known they will respect all this convention on protection of intellectual property.
Well, Dato, you mentioned that we can't let go. Both of these countries can't let go each other, and same to Malaysia, we can't let go US, China. Do you think the triangle of these three countries? How do you think about the bilateral relationship about these three countries?
First, we have to look at our own, vulnerability and also our own size. We are a small country, and then we are over dependent on external trade or economy. So it's in the best interest that we maintain the good relation with both sides, and we have done so. And then secondly, also in the regional context, ASEAN believes in external dialogue. China is our external dialogue. America is our external dialogue, So we are really friends. And I think both of these countries have signed the Treaty of Friendship.
True.
It's the larger country. Yeah. So both are our friends. So what we hope, whatever issues they have, we like to support them to resolve amicably. We think there are enough room for both to play a role which can benefit all of us.
True. Well, thank you so much, Dato, for your time for the sharing.
My pleasure.
we know better Malaysia. We know better about China. Do you have anything you'd like to add on about all the experience that you with China and Malaysia?
Of course, all of us actually, even through this, recording, we're working towards, a stronger, closer relation with China. Especially I'm also focused on people-to-people exchanges. I think looking forward, with such effort, I think we can bring better understanding about Malaysia's own development goal, and we also understand, China capacity, what China can help, and work together with us. So I think looking forward, all of us are actually committed to see a stronger Malaysia-China relation.
And we hope that the rumors is still around, but we hope the public will clarify the humor from the related party, should there is any rumors in between the relationship in both countries, right?
The rumors?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, basically, we look forward to Dr. Mahathir's visit to China. I think it's just working on the mutual date. I think from there, we will have actually a stronger signal towards a stronger Malaysia-China relations.
Thank you so much to Dato' Majid joined us for today to share with us all his experience in China and of course Malaysia. We look forward to have a better bilateral relationship in between China and Malaysia.